Getting my tour card on the second day, that changed everything because now it gave everybody a reason to believe that they could achieve in South Africa, because now it meant that somebody like us is actually going to be a professional dart player, which has never been heard before.
Hello, welcome along to the latest edition of the Tungsten Talk here at the MODUS Super Series, where we have a look back at the careers of some of the stars of darts. And today we're having a look back at the career of Devon Petersen, the African warrior, trailblazer, not just for his country, but for a continent. Now, we'll go full circle in this interview. I'll start and end with the same question. How would Devon Petersen look back at Devon Petersen?
I think because I don't feel in my mind that there's a reason now to kind of, this is the end. But if I were to look at the career that I've had so far, I think it's almost living a dream. As a young boy, obviously, I used to watch darts on the VHS tapes because obviously there was no broadcasting in South Africa, and the same VHS tapes I used to watch over and over. I'd know every dart. I'd know kind of what's going to happen, but in the end you always think, oh, this result could be different. And thinking about that VHS tape now and looking at my career, I'm like, I have a chance to actually make a difference in that space. So you don't have to see the same players coming through all the time and just doing the same thing, playing darts so I'm making a difference. So the difference being is that it's given me an opportunity to change not just the sport on the continent, in my hometown, in my country, but also make an impression globally and show the world that Africa has talent.
Let's go back to the start then. When was darts first introduced to your life?
Probably since I was born. I mean, the family, my dad and his brothers, they played for many years. It was a whole family team. And then the local leagues, my dad is really good, and some of his brothers are still like really good players. My dad's now close to, I think he's 70 and odd, but he still plays. But you look at, I mean, the dart board was always in the house. Wherever you went to a cousin or you stayed over, it was always the fallback when you had to come in the house because you finished. Because kids don't play outside anymore. So everything is Xbox. So back in the day, there used to be football outside, cricket outside, all of these things. And then when it gets dark, you come inside and you got all this energy as a kid. So we're going to play darts now. And obviously, most of it wasn't safe and secure, but we survived. And then, yeah, I only really picked up darts when I was like 15, 16, and really started to focus on it because I knew that obviously I was going to be able to play in the big leagues with my dad. My dad was my very first role model because obviously I saw him. He was a champion in the local leagues. And then quickly mimicked to how he played, wanted to achieve, and very inquisitive about the game. So his breakdown, very simple, a really, really top player in his day. And when I understood that I could achieve similar to what he was achieving on the board with results, it then gave me an opportunity to dream even bigger. And then I wanted to be, before I even started, I wanted to play in the regional team and make the SA team and be the youngest Protea player. And yeah, once I started playing, I think the momentum just took, and I almost became almost fearless in my dreaming. So people always say, when they ask me, what do you think how your career will kind of go? I'll say, I'm going to be world champ. I know that. I'm now the global champion, ADC global champion. But I'll say, I'm going to be world champ. And they're like, yeah, you're crazy. You can't, how can you be world champ? And I'm like, you think I can't, I think I can. One of us are going to be right at the end. So yeah, that's what I got.
So at that point, what were the opportunities? What were the pathways for yourself to try and forge something out of darts?
I think at that time, I mean, we only had Darts South Africa. You had one nationals a year. You had the local tournaments, which didn't really count to any ranking. So it was it's a massive contrast to what you guys have in the UK and in Europe. So we only had the one tournament, and you'd only be kind of almost not bound, but you'd play the local tournaments, and that's it. And it just kind of started creating enthusiasm. The late John McGowan, he then went over to the PDC, requested that they come to South Africa, host, I think it was the first pilot of the World Series, really, in 2006, 2007, I think the year was. And when we experienced that, my eyes lit up. It's like, I'm now seeing people that I've idolized and I've seen other things throw. Because when you're watching them at tournaments, they're only throwing these high averages. But when they were at the exhibition, they were kind of normal. You know what I mean? And then you realize, like, I can do that. I can achieve that. And that kind of understanding from where we were, what we looked at the time, it then, because of John McGowan and the late John McGowan, I think that because of his goals and his dreams, it allowed us all to dream. So I feel, that the progression in the area that we had was very limited. But now, I mean, the way in which the sport is globally, it's phenomenal.
So when did you decide to really take it seriously and the steps to become a pro begin to come into play?
The very time I started in the league, I think it was 17, turning 18, and I told my dad I'm gonna make sure that I'm the very best in not only South Africa but Africa. Very quickly, within a 5-year space, I became that, and it gave me the confidence to always dream, and the confidence to look at it and go, I can achieve anything in the sport, because, I mean, the only boundaries we have is the boundaries we set. And then it became okay, cool. Even though you want to dream and it's in touching distance, because all the opportunities are in front of you, you're still the one that have to reach it. And that gap between achieving your opportunity, the goals and dreams you want is almost that hard work. So it's probably 5 centimeters of hard work, and then the rest you can touch. So I then had to put in the hours every day while studying. I studied a business degree, and studying that 3 hours a day I used to practice, and that was not being a professional. So early on, my platform was work hard, and the results will come. It's not guaranteed, but you're giving yourself an opportunity. And I think that kind of laid the foundation for everything that I was to do in the future and to become in the future.
So when did you think, right, now we're going to take that next step, we're going to take it a little bit more seriously, contemplating moving to England, contemplating really giving the PDC circuit a go?
I think it was 2009, 2010 was the year that I thought, okay, cool. I told my dad at the start of 2010, I said, at the end of this year, at that time I was working in banking, I said, at the end of this year, I'm going to resign. I'm going to go to the PDC. And this is before anything, like before we had the qualifiers in September, back end of September. I lost the year before in the final. And I then had to obviously pick my pieces up. And I said, this year I'm going to win it. And then I'm going to resign and I'm going to stay in the UK. But before that, I got, it's not just as easy as it was. It wasn't a smooth road like everybody thinks. I mean, you this overnight success. But in 2000, I think it was 7, I ranked 3rd in the country. And I was a young whippersnapper playing, obviously, the darts of my life at the time. And I thought that I was going to make the pro tier team. And at that time, they didn't allow me to, because I was young. The sport was still very old and mature, and they wanted experience. And yeah, I thought that I was robbed. Then as a kid, you obviously throw your toys out the cart. You're saying, I'm never playing again, and blah, blah, blah. And then my dad sat me down and said, listen, I think that you have what it takes. So let's give it a proper go. After that, obviously 2009 came, played okay. 2010 came. I won majority of the tournaments that I had available to me, became Africa's #1 at that point through the African Cup, and then also the South African kind of contingent won most of the tournaments there. Once that happened, I knew that I was able to dominate Africa, and only then I was able to go to the Q school. But that was the first year of the Q school. There was 130 players, players like Chizzy. That's the year Chizzy got his tour card, and he still has it. John Henderson. I think Nathan Aspinall was there as well. I can't remember if it was that one or the next one. But yeah, there was players. Shane Maverick was one of the very first players to get his tour card. And you look at it and you go, I'm here now as a South African, and I believe that I'm going to get my tour card. Get my tour card on the second day. That changed everything, because now it gave everybody a reason to believe that they could achieve in South Africa, because now it meant that somebody like us is actually going to be a professional dart player, which has never been heard before. And yeah, I think it kind of carved a way and a pathway for myself. I mean, majority is obviously terrain and kind of unexplored, and it was just kind of building the plane as it was flying.
So when you're on that plane over from South Africa to the UK, how much are you thinking this is a great opportunity? And also, how much are you thinking this is also a gamble as well?
I always felt like it was destiny. I'm just going to walk through the door. That's the hardest part, is walking through the door. There was never a doubt in my mind that I was going to play fantastic. There was never a doubt in my mind that I was going to be magical on the stage. Never a doubt in my mind that I was going to have an opportunity to become a professional. And I told everybody, I left a good job, and I'm saying I want to be a professional, because I used to joke in the office and always say work is for losers. But in the mentality is it's more like, if you have a dream and you have a goal, I mean, you have one life. And people, I mean, that's as cliche as that sounds. If you're not chasing that, you're going to live your life with regret. At that time, never had a wife, never had kids. I was young. I think I was 23, 24. And you realize very quickly, like, everything that I did, because I wasn't bound by fear, I was just bound by the opportunity and wanting to achieve, and not for anybody else, but for myself. And when I experienced that, and it gave me the confidence, because not only did you just attempt it, you actually went there and actually achieved your goal. So people could actually there was living proof that what you dream, you can achieve. And that for me was the biggest. So there was never a thought of this is a gamble. I know my mom and my dad sat me down and said, Dev, I mean, what happens if it goes wrong? My answer was, what happens if it goes right? And that was it.
Work is for losers, definitely the one thing I'm taking from the interview more than, as we say, working on an interview right now. Then when you move into Pro Tour life, how did you find the adaptation to it?
It's the first year for me was like, just all smiles, exciting. I mean, it was hard, trust me. Not the playing side. The playing side was the easy side. You turn up, you play against the very best. You either play your best and you win, you play your best and you lose. So for me, it was turning up. And I mean, the first instance, meeting Joe Cullen, meeting the management at that time. So I was at the tournament at the Q school. Neil Cox, which was Tommy Cox's son, he came over and he was sponsoring at the time. He says, listen, seeing what you've done at the Worlds, get your tour card and we'll talk. Joe was there. I met Joe the first night I came to the Ali Pali in passing. Then we met each other at the Q school, because he came down and because we were going to room together. And the crazy part was me and Joe obviously sat down and we never knew each other, but there was an immediate connection because both banter and all of those things. I get my tour card, and the crazy part is you do the qualification, and Joe Cullen is now going to be a roommate. Joe Cullen, young player, Yorkshire, probably the very best that I've seen at his prime. But the first time, I think the first event was in Germany. Our manager booked a double bed, one double bed. Joe's never known an African guy ever in his life. And I'm like, okay, cool, shall we sharing? So me and
no
Joe.
top detailing, was there?
No, it's cuddle. Listen, but from that day, we traveled together. I stayed very close to him. We practice together all the time, and I always say, and this is true to the word, is if it wasn't for Joe, I don't think that, by no means was my tour life easy, because you were playing for rent money, you were playing for food, so if you missed a 5-all, it means that it's the difference between eating rice and having maybe a bit of meat with your food in a sense, but all of those sacrifices came at the it's what you want to achieve in this sense. So it's not always glitz and glam, but you do what you need to do. But if it wasn't for Joe Cullen, I don't think that I would have lasted this long. His friendship has been more of a brotherhood than anything else. And I think that because of having such people in a supportive role that didn't know you from a bar soap. If you look at it, I remember the one Christmas, they were handing out presents, right? And I'm sat there thinking, I don't know these people, obviously, from above, but they've accepted me as one of their own. And I got 2 onesies that year. I got a giraffe onesie and a penguin onesie and loads of other small gifts. But you kind of think immediately you have to have a platform and a base and a family over here. And that's the reason why I felt like I succeeded.
Let's talk about you and the World Championships and your relationship with that tournament. We've seen the walk-ons, we've seen the fun you've had at that competition. How would you describe your relationship with the Worlds, and do you remember your first experience of it?
Of course. The relationship with Ali Pali is love and love. You turn up there, it's the biggest tournament. You can come in there as a Joe Soap and then leave there as the king of the world within the sport. And I think that that was always the most attractive. I mean, the other tournaments, yes, great for obviously its financial gain and also its notoriety, but the world champs is the world champs. My first event, Norman Madu, I mean, that was phenomenal. I remember so obviously new to everything, right? Didn't have management at the time, stayed with friends in Wimbledon, and I had to book my first hotel. I actually booked the wrong hotel. My very first hotel in London, booked the wrong hotel. Booked an hotel somewhere in, I think it was a Premier Inn in Wolverhampton, but I just saw Premier Inn and I Googled London and I was like, oh, okay. I realized it was wrong, got the date, got the address wrong, got everything wrong. Perfect start. Then I stayed up in a pub down the road from Ali Pali on the top. And it was crazy because I traveled in the night on the bus, obviously making sure that I save as much of the money that I have, making it stretch as well, and then getting to the venue. I actually took a bus to the venue the morning because there's obviously, not the morning, the evening, bus to the venue. I had the shirt in my hand. You kind of almost go through all of this and go like, you couldn't do that right now. But back then you could, got off the bus, walk through the back, and there's a smell that the Ali Pali has, and it just smells of opportunity and success. You walk in there and you're greeted with, obviously you have to tick your name and do you have any guests? Luckily for me, I had friends in London and they came to come watch. But you realize very quickly, like, this is the dream factory. This is where this is what you played for. Met Norman Madu, went on stage. First two checkouts were 146 and 136. I mean, the rest was history. I was like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to achieve. I think one of them were a 15 darter as well. And I immediately knew, I mean, I played with the darts that Phil Taylor gave me at his last exhibition in South Africa. And I immediately felt like, you know, some players get to a stage and there's nerves, because there's so much anticipation, expectation from their side. To me, it's like, I've already made it. I just need to achieve on the stage right now. And I felt like I've played there for many years, walked around like I own the place. My first meal when I got there, I remember, was with the late Eric Bristow and Keith Deller. And I sat there, I got there early, and they were like, can we eat with you? And I'm like, it's Eric Bristow. Like, I've idolized this man for years, and just his personality, just the profile as well. And then obviously seeing Keith Deller there as well. Like understanding that the two of them were opponents. The reason why Keith Deller won his world champs is because Eric didn't take his chance. But you realize that this is the people that you idolized. And then the first question I asked is, I said, yeah, have a seat. I said, Eric, is it okay if I ask you a question? I said, what is the most important thing you can tell me right now about the world champs as a player stepping on the stage the first time? He says, if you can make your first dart go above the treble 20 in your first row, you'll be fine. And that's all that stuck with me. I said, make sure your first dart's above the treble 20. And yeah, I think since then, I mean, he's obviously late now, but I think since then, obviously seeing him at exhibitions and all this, always talking about that, you realize very quickly that the people that you meet on the pathway to your success or your greatness, there's always ask the questions, burning questions that you have. Never be shy, because it's an opportunity lost.
Let's talk achievements then, because there's plenty in your career. There's World Cups, there's Euro Tours, there's so much. If you were able to categorize which one for you would be the top, and in terms of the ones that you really, really see as the standouts, what would they be?
I think obtaining my tour card the first time, obtaining my tour card the second time, because that was the hardest, obviously coming back from injury. Taking South Africa to a quarterfinals along with Sean Hogan, and then having the miscount as well, and then having to bounce back from that in that moment. I think that one of the big ones for me was obviously winning a Euro Tour, playing in multiple finals, but also the ADC Global Champion. That for me is a big one. Simply, it might not have the stature of a world championships on the PDC, but for me, that is my global champion. You'll never be able to take that away from me, and I'm the first. So I think that as it is, I mean, the ADC has really lit up the world of darts, and I understand that it's not within the PDC characterized as that echelon, at the top of the echelon of the tournaments, but for me, that is what I've achieved so far. So yeah, I think being a trailblazer, having an opportunity, designing things for kids, youth through Dartboard Maths and International Dart School League, there's a whole host of things. So you can't really put your finger on it. But if I were to sit back and go, yeah, what's your what's probably your biggest trophy win ever? It's got to be the ADC Global Championship now.
And is that because it stems more than just the fact that you've won a trophy? It has more of a meaning, particularly towards the continent of Africa, which is something that you've always tried to represent. How much do you feel like you've impacted Africa, and how much do you feel like representing your country and your continent has impacted you too?
I think it's the biggest part of the reason why I have the success. Like, people always say, like, yeah, you're this lone candle in the professional darts. And I'm like, no, but I play for Africa. Like that, you can't have a bigger honor. Like, not even just South Africa, for all of the Africans. You look at the likes of Peter Washuri coming here, and a career that I've built for 14 years, he's taken away in 1 week, really. So you realize very quickly that those kind of impacts and just hard work, I think that I'm a selfless professional. I work hard for myself, but it's mostly to impact Africa and show them that you can also achieve, and not just show them, but also create that platform. So yeah, I think where I stand is the reason why I am the African warrior is because I'm worrying it for Africa and making sure that we have a door to walk through. More Africans coming through, and hopefully it changes the way in which the sport sees the continent, and also how the continent obviously looks at the world of darts and say we have a place on that podium.
In a sentence, the future, what does Devon Petersen want to be?
I'd want to be the champion that opens up the world for Africa in darts, and also just be a champion on a dartboard.
Devon, great chatting to you. Always a pleasure working with you. And we look forward to seeing more of you on the hockey, and maybe with these microphones in hand as well. We look forward to it. Devon, thank you very much. Thank you for watching the latest edition of the Tungsten Talk here at the MODUS Super Series.